We're recording, so now we can start whenever we'd like to.
Doesn't start.
What do you mean?
You're so good at this.
We practically butchered or I guess I practically butchered the last intro, so I'm gonna leave this one up to you.
No, just butcher it again. Fuck it.
Cool. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna leave it there. Welcome to Think Music. Just starts reading. Welcome to Think Music Podcast. Episode 2 is here, and we're talking about something that every musician deals with: being a great bandmate. Perfect. Anyways, this is Sean's favorite topic, and so I think he's very excited to share some of the knowledge that he's gained from this topic.
I just want to point out you do not have a voice for radio.
No, not at all. Thanks. Appreciate it. So unfortunately,
how to be a
Monster hasn't reached out to us yet for a sponsor, so we're gonna try to limit our Monster showcases as we go along.
I'm gonna drink it anyway. Oh, also, I got a new mic because the other one sounded like what's a good word to use? Garbaggio.
Yeah. So the entire time, let's just recap this real fast. I was editing the podcast, and Sean listens back to his audio and goes, "Dude, that sounds like trash." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Why didn't you tell me it sounded like trash?" I was like, "I did."
You didn't.
Yeah, I did. But then you were like, "Oh, you're an audio guy. You can fix anything." And I'm like, "I can't fix a crappy mic." So this guy went out and bought his mic that he's using now. That has an RGB light in there that kind of looks like a e-cigarette when he takes off the lid. So there you go, sort of an e-cigarette right there.
Kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it sounds good. So it sounds a lot better than his other mic. So there you go.
Who says e-cigarette anymore? It's called a vape.
No, there's an e-cigarette and there's a vape. One is tobacco, one's liquid.
Okay. I'm not an authority on this.
This is not what this podcast is about.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get back on topic.
All right, I'll let you open this topic.
Okay, we didn't plan for that, but I'll do it. How to be a great bandmate and not be that guy. I think this is how would I word this? I would say this is a good thing to have some have some self-awareness about, because I'm sure a lot of people don't think they're that person. But some things to consider, and whether you're in the band or you're supporting the band, you're a teammate on a production or whatever it is, there's plenty of ways to be helpful, add value to your role. I do believe that the majority of this profession, whether it's cover work or even professional environment, the skill's important, but the attitude and the work ethic, I believe, is more important and is sought after more. I've talked to many musicians who would rather have a C player that has an A attitude versus having some savant on stage who can't get along with anybody. So, yeah, I think this is probably one of the more important things. And I do have some experience with being both of those, being a good bandmate. I know I've also been a bad one. But I've also experienced what it's like on both ends of those things. So, yeah, there's your opening. You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I can say that from like a sound tech point of view, and again, phrasing all of this, a lot of my stuff goes off of volunteer work. But I will say, like, being an important team player is just as important as a volunteer as it is as a paid person. Even if you're just like walking in as to what Sean does, just do like cover bands and stuff, even that's like super important. Whether or not you're getting paid or you're not, it's still important to be a good teammate. Because I would rather have someone come in that can do the positions, that might need help to do the positions, but is still willing to help others in the process, than to have someone that comes in, but yet, like you said, have this attitude that's just like, I don't want to be here. I shouldn't have to be here.
Right.
I'm better than all of you, kind of thing. And it kind of just, that puts a damper on it.
I think there's more to it than just the attitude too. It's the work ethic and how you contribute. But that's the funny thing, because if you're volunteering, in your case at church, like, If you don't want to do it, then why are you doing it? And I get, some people have bad days, and then on the flip side of that, if you're in a band, like if you have a bad attitude, why are you in a band? Especially if it's like on the side for cover or tribute, or if it's not your full time job, like why are you doing it if you don't want to be doing it? But I don't think I run into too many people like that. I run into people who just don't understand like the basics that apply to a job. Some of the
Yeah.
things that showing up on time. Got to do that at work. You should be doing that in a band. You should be doing that for practice, rehearsal rather.
Yeah, let me just
Uh,
let me just tap that real fast. Whenever the
sure.
thing says to show up at 7 o'clock, like in the morning, let me just Sean doesn't have to deal with in the morning stuff, but let's just say a time period in general. You have to, if it says 7 o'clock, be there at 7 o'clock, like no later than 7 o'clock. If it says sound checks at 7:15, you should be there at 7. Everything should be set up by 7:15 so that we can start rolling sound check. These numbers are not arbitrary. These numbers are so important because if you show up at 7:15 and you just start getting your stuff ready, we won't get a sound check till 7:30, maybe 7:45, which means now we're running 15 minutes late.
Well, this is a problem in rehearsal too, because if you rehearse at someone's house, there's usually no sound check or some sound guy there to do that. But like if you got stuff to plug in, you got to tune, you got to do all these other things. If you don't show up, I would recommend a few minutes before rehearsal starts. If rehearsal's at 7 p.m., for example, and everybody gets there at 7, starts plugging stuff in, wants to talk, wants to do it, like you're not getting going until 7:45 or whatever, and it's such a it's inefficient way to rehearse as a band.
Yeah.
So if you are the drummer and you've got to bring all your gear to a practice, rehearsal, whatever it might be, like show up if you can, if it's feasible for the band, or whoever's house you're practicing at, or the venue, or whatever it might be. Get there 30 minutes before everyone else and set your stuff up, or whatever you got to do to try to alleviate some of the inefficiencies, because then you're losing time on rehearsing the stuff that you should be rehearsing, which kind of I mean, and I can go off into another tangent about that, and I should, but before I do, I'm going to say that like in a live situation, this is important. I think that you know if the vent, like there's so many different situations you can be in. I'm just going to use a typical cover band example. If you've got the place for the night, like you're doing a 3 or 4 hour gig, and there's nothing stopping you from setting up, with a good amount of time as a band, you should be doing that. So, if you start at 8 p.m., if you can get there at like 6, set your stuff up, get your sound check done, give yourself a little extra time to troubleshoot something, or however long it takes. And I think part of that is just getting to know like your setup and how many people and what they've got, and then I'm gonna add on that like I'm a big proponent of everyone shows up together at the same time, with the exception of if someone volunteers, like I'm going to show up 30 minutes before everyone else because I want my own time to set my stuff up and
Yeah.
not be in anyone, whatever. But like if we're getting there at 6 to start setting up, we as the band are getting there at 6, not, well, I'm a singer, all I got to bring is a microphone, I'll show up 20 minutes before we start. Like, no, 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 no. That's not how this works. Like, that's just like you can do something to help everyone out. And those some things can be a lot of things. As a singer, you just because you're not setting up a whole rig of something, maybe you can go talk to the venue and say, hey, what specials are you running tonight that we can promote? What crowd? It's our first time playing here. Nice to meet you. Let me introduce myself. And then what's the type of crowd you have here? What kind of stuff do they like? And
Because you're
maybe
the front
what
guy.
well, yeah, and to that point, you're the front guy, so it's good to know those things if you're the person supposed to be doing the entertaining.
Yeah.
But then you can kind of quickly run back to the band and say, "Hey, listen, they like this type of upbeat music. Let's change the set list up a little bit. We have some other options we can go to, or it could be uh, planning like, hey, they don't really like the band to take a whole lot of breaks, so we're gonna not take a whole lot of breaks tonight. We're gonna play through so we don't lose anybody and they don't leave.
Yeah.
There's so many things this person who's not setting any gear up can be doing to help the band out. And as a person who's ran sound while playing in the band, it sucks when it sucks when one of the people shows up really late and throws the whole thing off because, like, there's things to contend with. So just show up on time and don't think you're excluded no matter what you play unless you've worked something out with the band. Like, don't just assume it's okay. Talk about that stuff.
So
Um,
there's a saying that Sean used to say, and we're gonna start making merch out of it. And that's gonna be our first merch in the merch store. It says roll a cable or do something. So we're gonna we're gonna
pretty
make a
much how I
shirt.
said that.
Yeah, we're gonna make a shirt that says roll a cable or do something. It's
Yeah.
gonna sell. We're gonna sell it on the merch store.
I've seen people who have come out to see our band or come out whatever that night, and we're done, and they're helping me tear stuff down, and they're not even in the band. And then there's people in the band that are just like, "We're out of here," and it's like,
Yeah.
we all showed up together, we all made the same amount of money, we all did the same thing. Like, let's all help each other out so we can get out of here, and be that type of person to just jump in and help out. It really goes a long way. I'll tell you right now, that's the best way to get, well, all these topics really are the best way to get return work. Your name gets out there as being somebody that can get along with everyone, and you're willing to do a little extra, and you're willing to kick in and just be a good bandmate. Like, that's what people tend to be looking for. They're not like, I need the best guitarist in town. Like, I need the best teammate in town. Um, so yeah, I'd say there's a lot to being on time, but it applies in every situation. Practice, rehearsal, whatever, live, just
Yeah.
communicate that as a band and make sure you stick to it. With the caveat, I want to
Oh
point
boy.
out, and I think this is important for people to realize, especially if you're just kind of getting into this business, is if you have a gig at 8 p.m., the gig doesn't start at 8 p.m. It starts at, like, for me, 4 in the afternoon. I got to load my car up. I got to get it to the place. I got to unload it. I got to set my stuff up.
Yeah.
So when you're booking gigs and your availability needs to account for those things. So as a person, like, say, a singer who carries a little less, or maybe a guitarist that just got something simple, like, you might be able to get away with a little less preparation time, but still consider the fact that, like, the band is going to have to get in there at that time. So I would just say that, like, if account for the time before a gig and after, really, for teardown into what you're available for that day. Otherwise, you might create the problem of not being on time and then aggravating someone in the band continuously.
Okay. All right. that kind of goes into one of the other topics that are in here, so we don't have to really have to talk about that, which is be flexible and easy to work with. One of the main things that I can definitely attest to, and I think Sean can, um, is knowing your parts, especially just being in a band, like being in a band, or in my case, being in the sound booth. Um, the reason why I say that for my case is I'll say one thing and then I'll let Sean do, and then I'll piggyback. But for a audio technician, if you're mixing audio but you don't know the songs, you don't know how to mix the audio. And I say that because in the way of different songs sound different, and different songs have certain different instruments that drive certain parts of the song, right? So there's certain songs that may be super acoustic heavy. There may be certain songs that are super keys heavy. This is coming from CCM background. But certain songs that are super acoustic heavy, certain songs that are super keys heavy, certain songs that are super electric heavy. Like, you have to know what really drives the song in order to mix the song properly. Because if you mix the song incorrectly, not only does it not make it sound the way it should, but it also might sound muddy, or it might sound lost. Or if the let's say, for example, the electric guitarist knows that he has, a driving line in that song, and he knows that he's supposed to be the dominant instrument, and so he's going through it. But as you're mixing, the person next to you goes, I can't even hear the electric guitar, and I know this song, and usually he drives that song. And you're waiting for, like, that iconic, line that the electric guitar always plays, but you don't hear it. And that's because you didn't mix it properly. That's because you don't know the song. You don't know your part. So that's kind of where I fall in that line there.
So first off, the CCM music, I don't even know why the guitarists ever show up because none of you put them in the mix. Like,
What do you
I
mean?
I never, nobody. at any church has ever heard the electric guitar in a
Oh,
CCM
dude.
band. It's just I'm telling you, I don't know what it is, but uh, yeah, that's a little different though because I think you're in a situation where you can know because
Yeah.
you work there, the same people play there, but there's a lot of sound guys that mix for bands and they don't even like they've never heard them before, so they just kind of got to wing it. So I think it's important for almost sound guys almost have to be musicians themselves, but really what it is they've got to have a good ear for structures and stuff like that, and they'll be able to drive up some electric guitar if it's on a solo or something.
Yeah.
A lot
Well,
of
it also
guitarists
helps
have their
knowing
own
the
boost.
genre too.
Well, the genre, but really just paying attention to the music and good sound people do know what to look out for
Mm-hmm.
when they don't know the songs that are being played because they've never heard that band or mixed them before. So I think that's, but you know, a lot of guitarists are really good about having their own boost pedals and things like that for their own solos, and so it's just a combination of working together and communicating. So I've seen great sound people just own a night by make a band sound really good just by paying attention and really once you get through the first set or whatever it'll usually be firing on all cylinders. And so anyways, but yeah, do know your parts. I do think as a musician, this goes back to what is the difference between practice and rehearsal. I mean, you practice at home learning your parts and then you come to rehearsal as a band and you should know those parts and then work out any little changes to the song that need to happen or problems that you might be running into. There's a lot of for cover bands and even original bands too, but there's a lot of like little tricks you can do staying organized so that everybody's learning the same parts. If you're doing a certain version of a song, particularly a cover song, and there's a YouTube video out on it, like make sure everyone has a copy of that link so that they can all learn the same version. If it's going to be a half step down or whatever that needs to suit the singer, make sure everybody's aware of that. Um, in addition to like practice your instrument and the songs that you need to be like, there's no, I mean, we've all done it. Don't get me wrong. We've all like, I'll figure this out real quick. And in some cases you can, but like generally speaking, like go learn your parts because if everyone else in the band learned their parts and you show up and you didn't, it goes to like the whole respect thing of showing up on time. Now you're showing up unprepared and everyone else is prepared. And I can't tell you how many times like the entire band but one person has learned this song and then we all right, well, I guess we're not doing it this week because this one person hasn't learned it. So just communicate if you can, if you don't have time or like you're just whatever, it didn't happen this week. Like just let the whole band know so they're not expecting to have to come to how many times I've had to grind to learn a song just to find out someone else in the band didn't. I'm like, I just spent this whole afternoon learning these
Yeah.
parts so that I could be prepared today because I was busy all week, and now I didn't have to do that because you didn't learn. You're okay. Like if you'd have said, "Hey, I'm not gonna have this ready for tonight," I could have not have had to worry about it as much.
Yeah.
So just, and then when you go play live, I mean, that's typically where all the problems come out when you're not prepared, and do whatever you gotta do to know your parts. Obviously, mistakes are gonna happen. It happens, but if you've got to have your, we talked about iPads last week. If you have to have that one cheat thing for that one song, like I totally get it. So yeah, know your parts. It's very
Yeah.
important. It's just about respect to everyone else.
The same
Um,
thing goes for, and this is my other part that I do, which is singing. Same thing goes for vocalists. Um, if you, especially if like there, there's so many rehearsals that you're going through, and the band sounds awesome. The band knows their parts. They're going. They're moving on, and then the vocalist is singing and forgets the lyrics. And so now we have to restart the song because they're like, "Oh, can we start all over again, please? I'm sorry, I forgot the lyrics. Oh gosh, can we like you're taking up time to for our rehearsal because you forgot the lyrics." My thing is it hard to remember songs for a set? It can be. And I can imagine, especially for sets that Sean does, like you're maybe playing 50 songs in a night.
yeah,
Like it's a hard list to remember. Um, but if you're doing it in a more stable environment where it's like a same rotation,
like a
there should,
church.
yeah, there should be no reason why, for example, and Sean knows the song, but like one of the most popular CCM songs, well, I don't know if they still are the most popular, but they were for a long time, was Praise. Um,
Yeah,
super,
that's
yeah,
a lot
super
going
easy
on in that
song.
song.
Yeah, but
What do you
super
mean it's
easy.
super easy?
No, super easy song lyrically. Lyrically, a super easy song because it is the same lyrics over and over and over again. The only
Oh, but
thing is,
maybe
yeah,
yeah,
no,
the
the
words
like instruments wise
the
is a hard song, but
well, no, I'm just saying singing that song. It's got some like
that's
high.
different. I don't mean vocally. That's different. Lyrically easy though, because the lyrics are the exact same throughout the song.
Gotcha.
But like that's a super easy song to learn the lyrics to. Now to do it vocally is a completely different story, but to learn the lyrics to super easy song. If you don't know the lyrics of the song and halfway through you mess up the lyrics of the song, and now we have to restart the song, I like that's not a good look on you, especially since you've had all week to practice. And not only that, but we play this song like 80 times in a month. So, like, yeah, to me, that's just, it kind of sends off red flags because my thing is, are you not willing to be that band member or that, that vocalist that is willing to drive in time outside of your practice time to remember these things? But
So I I can forgive mistakes. Like I try to give grace to everyone, and I don't care what you play because I'll be the first one to screw up, and I can really train wreck a song pretty good too. So there's a difference between making a mistake and just not being prepared. So, no matter what you do, if you're a singer, a player, or whatever, just plan to be able to get through those situations. Whatever you got to do. Like I said, if you got to have that cheat iPad up there, or if you got to whatever it takes. Like, part of being a good bandmate, and then we didn't have this on the script. Um,
you and the script, you have such a love hate relationship with this thing.
yeah, we need to find a better producer. Um, it being a good bandmate is also like having solutions for problems. Like, well, what happens if I screw up? Like a good musician can get themselves out of a bad situation.
Yeah.
A lot of good musicians, you don't even know they made a mistake. Like it's just like I didn't notice that. Um, so there's a lot of things of practicing. I had band practice oh last week with my country band. And I say practice. I use that term interchangeably with rehearsal. It's a rehearsal is really what it was, but because we have a gig coming up. But
Oh.
uh yeah, so the guitarist, his wireless pack for his guitar died
Uh,
in the song, in the middle of a song. And the lead guy, who's a little less experienced at playing in live bands, like wanted to stop. I'm like, no, we're not. The bass player and I knew to keep going, and as soon as he realized we were not going to stop, I'm like, you're on acoustic rhythm, like just keep playing as he's sorting that problem out over there because it's going to happen live. That's
yeah.
that's when things are going to fail, and then you can't just
Never
stop
fails
and start
during
songs.
practice.
No, except this one time.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like I've like everything that breaks always happens during a
Yeah.
practice or during a
During
live. But
live.
so he thanked us later. He's like, "Hey, that was a good learning thing, for me to know that for now on, so that if we, something happens, then we keep going. Yeah, unless it's catastrophic, unless the mixer shuts off, like I have had happen.
Yeah, that's
Um,
different.
yeah, then you've got to, yeah, but yeah, if you can fight through it because you can't stop and start songs all night long just because you screw up a part or you forget a part or
Yeah.
your batteries die. You gotta work through it. So be prepared for that as a musician and as a band. So,
All right, Sean, what makes a bad one?
so I hate to. I don't like judging, but if you things we, I mean, everything we've talked about could make a bad bandmate, right? But the thing about it is, it's the consistency. If like you
Yeah.
are late once, whatever, shit happens. I don't know if I can cuss on this podcast or not, but I just did.
You did like 4 times in the first episode, so it's fine.
Did I?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Um, forgetting a part or making a mistake occasionally happens to everybody. Totally. I don't care if someone makes a mistake on stage. Like I'll do it.
Hmm?
It happens. It happens. Um, if you are consistently that person, like that's a problem.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is sometimes you don't even realize you're consistently that person. So you have to have some self-awareness. You might be in a
Hmm.
situation where nobody's willing to tell you, or you might be in a band that has no problem telling you those things. But you've got to pay attention. That one of the best ways to know like how solid of a player you are and how like consistent you are in a live situation is record it. Throw a GoPro out there. Whatever you got to do. Um, I do it a little bit different. I actually multi-track all the live gigs so you can really hear all the problems, but it, just record and then go back and watch it and say, "Wow, okay, I can see where like in this part right here, I'm totally like losing energy and I'm not getting it out there as loud as on the vocals or this guitar part. Wait, this ain't jiving right," because you may not hear it live. So it's a good way to keep an eye on those things. But I don't think a lot of people who do a lot of the things that makes a quote unquote bad bandmate, they don't do it in a way that's intentional or like malice. I think it's just personality differences, understanding expectations and things. And you might have a guy like me in the band who expects like you to show up on time and bring your own gear, know how to use your gear, know how to troubleshoot your gear. Like, don't leave it all to me to figure out for you. Um, Help everybody load in, help everyone load out. As we were saying earlier, like if you don't have anything to do, go talk to the venue, go find out, like, or go intermingle with some people that are there and like get your name out there, hand out business cards, whatever. Um, I expect that. But if I haven't communicated that to anybody, like it doesn't mean they're not doing it because they're lazy. It just may not have been something that even came to their mind. So
Yeah.
take feedback, go get the feedback, and then work on those things. Like as a musician, as a person, as a bandmate. But the worst bandmate, like the what makes a really bad one, is somebody who does have that attitude, and it's not a inconsistent. It's a consistent thing. Um, the "it's not my job" attitude. Okay, first off, in a cover band, everything is your job. I just want to point that out. Like, there ain't no support. There's very rarely like you might have some friends, you might have like whatever, but like everything is everyone's job to ensure that
Yeah.
we can get on stage and play our 3 to 4 hours or whatever it might be. Like, it ain't my job to go troubleshoot a cable that's running from a microphone because I'm the drummer. But like, if I know how to do that, why
Hmm.
wouldn't I go help out real fast? Because the quicker we solve this problem, the quicker we can get back to work, and we're not standing there with dead air and bringing the energy down, right? Um, just because you don't bring an instrument doesn't mean you can't help roll cables or do something, as we mentioned earlier. You can't pick some speakers up off stands and put them off to the side and help carry them out to someone's car. Whatever, like just do any of those things. If it's that's not my job, then you're not part of the team. You're part of like your own thing, right? You've got your own
Yeah.
thing going on, and it can cause problems. It may piss someone off in the band, but it may also actually create a logistical problem that slows you down and makes the band inefficient. The less songs you're playing that night, like that's that's not good. It's not a good look. So something to consider.
Yeah.
Um, Overplaying or not listening to others, like so. I mean, this is being a musician is about serving the song. It's not about being the lead guitarist with your solos. It's not about being the drummer with your loud playing through the floor, um, or the lead person being like the spotlight and the limelight. Like that's not what music's about, right? Like so, know that and be considerate of that. And there's so many things to say in that I can't list them all, but you know, volume control.
Yeah.
Just because you're the guitarist doesn't mean everyone in a 3 block radius needs to know that you're playing the solo to this song, right? So consider the room you're in, consider the situation you're in, and be mindful of that. If you're a drummer, learn dynamics. If you can't play volume based on the room, the type of venue you're playing or the type of gig you're doing, then you might have a problem. I mean, I used to be like the most heavy-handed drummer in anywhere I played. I didn't care if I was in a corner of a tiny room, everyone was gonna know I was there. And then you learn over time, like, okay, I gotta learn to bring it down a little bit. I gotta learn to allow, because as a drummer, like the whole band's gonna have to come up to volume to match you in order to be able to be heard. And now we've got tons of noise, and if the venue doesn't support that kind of thing, or the gig doesn't really call for that kind of volume and energy,
Yeah.
then you gotta be smart about that. So listen to others, and in that being, listen to the rest of the band, listen to the venue if they're asking you to turn it down. Okay, well, here's the big. Let me give you a huge tip for this. If somebody in the venue is saying, "Come, it's too loud, turn it down," what they mean is generally speaking, is something is wrong. It's not that
Yeah.
the whole band is loud. It's something isn't mixed right. Someone in the band is too loud. Somebody is too loud, and everyone's trying to match that volume. And we need to figure out the mix problem. We need to either bring somebody down. We need to tell the drummer to quiet down a little bit, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Consider those factors. Take that feedback. This is why being prepared, showing up on time, and having all your gear ready to go, and doing a proper sound check, no matter the situation, is a good way to solve this problem. If you're, oh, we're just going to plug in and go, well, then you're going to spend an hour back and forth with somebody. Oh, wait, I'll turn it down again, okay? And then next thing you know, the whole night's wrecked. So, um, well, always late, unprepared, or needing to be babysat. So, we talked about being late. Don't do that. If you're always late, like you need
Yeah.
to figure out your
Please don't.
situation. Can you commit to a band if you're always late? If you have legitimate things that are causing you to be late, then you need to reconsider the situation you're in and how you can adjust around that. If you're always late because you're an unprepared person, some self awareness will tell you you're unprepared. Go figure out that problem,
Yeah.
and try to be better at it. Um, being unprepared and not knowing your music and not knowing your parts, not like having your gear, always forgetting something at home, like do whatever you got to do to solve that problem. Checklist, whatever. Like I got a mental way of doing it myself. Like when I'm putting stuff in my car, I always look at, okay, what do I need that works with that? So if I put the kick drum in my car, well, I know I need the kick pedal. Let me make sure I got that in the car. Like things like that. Little mind tricks that I use. There's different things. And if you need to be babysat, and let me tell you, I have been in a band that someone has needed to be babysat. And it's I don't and what is it? What do you mean by babysat? Okay. They can't figure out how to get their gear to work right. They can't figure out why their guitar sounds terrible. They can't figure out why they can't hear out of their monitor. And then you give them all the tools to help them with that situation, and they still don't progress through those problems. Part of being a musician is knowing how to deal with these things on your own. Things do happen, things break, shit happens. But generally speaking, like if I need to walk you through the same thing every single time, then you're taking time away from me doing what I got to do, and this just becomes a problem continuously. You're going to aggravate somebody. They're going to eventually like
Yeah.
not want to work with you, and then when if you're a guitarist, for example, when like that guy who you've pissed off in the band so many times knows that this other band needs a fill in guitars for the night or something, they're not going to call you
Nope.
because they're not going to put that on somebody else. But if you're the guy that shows up on time every time, as prepared as possible, you know your gear, you can go in and set in a situation and go play. Somebody's going to call you for work. I in fact have really not auditioned for many bands. Most of them have come through knowing somebody, and my attitude and my professionalism
Yeah.
has like got me to at least the conversation with that person, and then maybe hey, come play with us, see if it works. But I can tell you right now, there's great musicians in town that are just like, I know a drummer who's phenomenal, and nobody's gonna call that guy
Yeah.
because he's just not the guy that anybody wants to work with. So and lastly, complaining without offering help. I worked with this one guy that everything was a problem at everywhere we went. Like I was like, dude, I'm willing to make the best of this situation. It sucks. We're in the corner of this room. I know, right? But like whatever. There's nothing I can do about it. Why am I gonna get mad about it? And this guy's complaining the whole time. Like if you if you think this table that's in front of us is in the way, crazy thought, push it up a little bit. Why are we yelling about it on stage before we get going? Like or here's another thing to consider. Like maybe you didn't vet this place properly. Like if you don't think you can fit in this place, then maybe you should have looked into that before booking the gig. Or maybe you didn't book it, but you're the one showing up. Like if you've got the attitude that everything here is a problem, like then you're just gonna have that kind of night, and it's gonna aggravate everyone else. And if you're
Yep.
not up there on stage having fun, people are gonna notice. Like nobody cares if you play the music right. They care if you're having a good time and bringing energy.
Yeah.
Like I've seen bands that they're okay musically, but they put on a great show, and everybody would rather have them than somebody that comes up there and nails every part but is boring. So, um,
I told you guys this episode would be all Sean.
yeah.
He's
Sorry,
very
yeah.
he's very what's it called? Um Emotional is not the right word, but
Opinionated.
yeah, that's what I was looking for. Opinionated. I will say, About like 10-ish minutes ago, I accidentally turned off the recording. And so I had to like reset it. So I think I lost maybe like 2 seconds of what you were saying, but we have backup audio, so that's okay. We can, I mean,
How do you by accident stop the recording
because
of a
I
podcast that you're
accidentally
recording?
I accidentally hit the spacebar on my keyboard and it turned off the record. The whole point is, it was 2 seconds worth of audio gone, or worth of video gone, but there's still audio. So we're
Oh, so we're
good.
gonna have a black screen.
No, there just might be a little like 2 second gap. It's fine. Be all right. Worst case
But what you,
scenario, I'll. Anyways, so
hang on, what was that about? Let's see here. Know your parts.
hey, you said that you will forgive mistakes as long as it's not the same mistake over and over, and it was one mistake. It's fine. We're good.
All right, fine.
We're
Fine.
good on
I'll
that
let
one.
this one slide, but I'm telling you, I'm on the hunt for a proper producer.
um, so okay, so I can say just I'll touch on these real fast so that we can move on to the next next topic. Uh, the it's not my job attitude is a very detrimental attitude, and I can say that's a very poor attitude, especially in a church.
Oh
Regardless
yeah.
of it being in a band, it's a super poor attitude. Um, the reason is because how to I'm trying to figure out the way to phrase this. Uh, in a church setting, right? Everyone is believed to be called to be servants, right? Which means regardless of if it is your job or not, you should be willing to help. And that's also
Yeah.
just like,
Being a good teammate.
yeah, exactly. Uh, you should just be willing to help.
Yeah.
So if you are like, I don't know, a singer in the front line, and someone asks you, "Hey, do you mind taking this thing and giving it to this person, or do you mind cleaning up the iPads after rehearsal?" And you're like, "That's not my job." I'm sorry, but it's your job because you're a part of the team. Um, in the
Yeah.
same way of like, you're done with rehearsal, you're done with your gig, your service, whatever, and you just walk away, right? And you're like, "Hey, you left your station a mess. Like your cables are
Yeah.
everywhere. They're just, well, that's not my job. Whoever's gonna clean up afterwards." No, you're a part of the band. It's your job as well. So the "it's not my job" attitude is definitely like a very, and that'll get you kicked off of a team, of a band, like out of a cover band. It'll get you kicked off of anywhere real fast. Um, Overplaying or not
Agreed.
listening to others, I don't really have that too much of a problem. And I think that's because mine is more of a controlled environment, so I can actually change the dynamics of everything. But I guess in a bar and not having a sound guy, it's kind of difficult to change the dynamic on the fly while trying to play drums. In your case, um, always being late, unprepared, needing to be babysat. We already touched on the unprepared and late, so I won't touch on that again. But the needing to be babysat, oh my gosh. Um, if you have been given the tools to do everything, you've been walked through the tools. I have given you paperwork and documentation on how to use the tools. We have covered multiple classes on how to use the tools. Why do I still need to adjust your levels when I'm supposed to be mixing the band?
Oh yeah. Let me tell you about that one. That
Like,
yeah.
that's such a that's I you have an iPad. I gave you an iPad. I showed you how to use the iPad. Here's how you adjust your levels. Why do I need to adjust it mid band? Mid, like, I'm supposed to be mixing. I'm supposed to be making sure the set is right, everything sounds good. When everyone's out here, they can listen to the music and it sounds good. I should not have to take time separate. Not only does it take my time, but now you're also killing the band for a couple seconds so that you can figure out your ears, and everyone has to stop to cater to you. That is something that's not okay. Like, that is such a pet peeve of mine. If you cannot figure it out and you really need my help, we'll do it privately. Like,
Exactly.
wave at me, do something, call me over. Okay, hey, what do you need help with? I do not mind if you need something quickly. I could bring an iPad. We can work on it. I can show you how to do it again. But do not stop the band from practicing to figure out your ears. That is such a pet peeve of mine.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you know you have problems not knowing how to use something, show up a little early, arrange for that, get some lesson off to the side. Don't hold the whole operation up for your, like, that goes back to just being a good bandmate. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've said, download this app, put it on your phone. You can adjust your own ears. Okay, next time. Okay. And then next time comes and we're not doing it. And it's like, dude, I'm trying to like play music as well. Like, you're killing me here. Like, just,
Yeah.
it would help me out a lot if you just took on this burden of your own problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I get it. It's just, but back to some people just don't realize like the impact that that makes. So I think that lends to being able to give and take feedback,
Yeah.
which is our next section, by the way.
Which is some tips that we
See what I
have
did
for you
there?
guys. Oh, there you go.
So,
Look at that.
segued right in there.
I mean, beautiful tunnel bear. So, so
Speaking of segue,
yeah. Our next thing is just some tips that I think that we have for everybody. We've given them a lot already. Right? We've given them a lot of tips through our complaining. So let's give them some actual tips and some constructive criticism here. I'll let you go first with the first one.
how to give and take feedback without blowing up the room. This is to give. What's so funny is I'm getting blown up right now. Over over the whole thing I got to do tonight. Anyways,
Sounds fun.
it's running sound. But anyways, the way you approach people on feedback is like the way you're gonna. This is how it's gonna work. Like if there's any number of issues that we've listed are a problem with someone, the way you approach that person, consider the fact that they may not even know they're doing or not doing whatever it is you have a problem with.
Yeah.
And just be like, hey, the whole band gets here at 6 and you're always showing up at 7 and that leaves us an hour before we go live. Like, is there any way if we're all getting here at 6 that you can get here at 6, because it would really help out with setting everything up and all that. And that's just a simple conversation, as opposed to, wow, you're always late. Or don't be passive aggressive about it either. Nobody likes that, right? So
yeah.
Set the expectation and then follow up. And then if this is a continual conversation, then you've got another problem to deal with. But in most cases, people,
episode.
how to kick someone out of a band. But before you go to down that route, and then if you're the person that's hearing that, don't blow up either. Like, oh, I didn't even realize the effect I was having on everyone. Like, consider these things. Don't just take it to offense, right? So it's a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
And then if it's something even more like ego breaking, like, hey, about your instrument and how you play it. Like somebody says, hey, you're playing this thing wrong, or like, don't take offense. Doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean you're wrong, or vice versa. Just listen and consider it and see what you can do to accommodate. And if you always look at everything as being someone who's accommodating the rest of the band, you'll understand, like, it's not important about how you play it or what you're playing. It's more important about how it ties into what everything is, how it's all like playing out in the music. And I've had so many good conversations with a guitarist that goes, hey, this hit you're doing, it's like 3 and 4, but you're not playing it that way. And it's like where I'm hitting. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. My bad. I didn't even notice.
That's why it sounds like that.
Yeah, let me fix that. And I'm like, and then I go back and listen to like some recordings. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I don't know how the hell I was playing it that way, and like not catching it in my ears or whatever. So it's conversation, right? Because we're all just trying to get to the end here of making good music and putting out a good, a good show or whatever. So
I'm gonna quickly interject because I want to skip to the very last part there. So the last one we have of this section is the importance of side conversations and offstage encouragement. I'm also gonna kind of just quickly touch on the importance of side conversations on stage and off stage, because certain conversations should be had in private.
That's fair.
If you have if you have a problem with someone on your team or someone on your band, that is not a public declaration that you are just automatically allowed to state in front of everybody.
No, don't tear
Um,
anybody down in front of everyone. No.
especially like before a service or before a set, like do not do that. Right? If you have a
Nope.
problem with a bandmate or a person, go to whoever you can trust out of this whole thing privately. Um, for example, I can give an example from um my church. If I had a problem with my, so I work really closely with our MD, right? Because our MD knows exactly what songs we're going to be playing, how we're going to hit the songs, what needs to be done. And that he's also really good at he's also really good at catching the new things of back and forth. If someone has a problem with our MD,
Mhm.
and which is fair, right? You can have a problem with anybody for any different reason. Maybe the MD tells you, hey, hit on the 4, and maybe you're trying to hit on the 2, right? And you don't really want to catch that, right? The thing is, do not immediately either two things, and I've seen both of these things happen, call him out in person or completely zone out everything he's saying. I've seen
Yeah.
both of
Uh,
these things happen in person, and it's not a good look for you, and it's not a good look for the team. Um, so
yeah.
my suggestion, my real world tip is, if there is a serious problem between you and a bandmate, take it private. Go talk about it privately.
Yeah.
Bring it to someone else's attention. Don't immediately go to confrontation, because you might actually need to cool down before you even get to the actual initial hurt or that initial person, right? So bring it to somebody that you can trust, talk about it, and then figure out a way forward. That like talking about it publicly, I've just it has, I mean, you can tell it'll make or break a team real fast.
Yeah, never tear anybody apart live on stage in front of others. Like that's you shouldn't be tearing them apart anyway. But if you have a serious personal or professional problem with someone, like you need to go handle that separately and professionally. And yeah, don't ever because would you want that done to you? Like it's as simple as that. I
Yeah.
had an instance where someone in my band, one of my bands, tried to give me the business because I was screwing up the intro to a song that we tried 3 times and I totally screwed it up. And it wasn't because I didn't know the song. It's because the click track was like, I say in my defense, something changed. Like there's a 6 count. I'd always remembered it as a 4 count, and I was starting to. And instead of like after the first or the second one, just saying, you know what, the hell with it, we're gonna go into another song because it was our first song of the night, and everybody staring at us. Like he's kind of really got pretty boisterous with me on stage, and like, what what are you doing? Why aren't you doing this right? Like it's a 6 count. I'm like, whoa, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Like it's a mistake. I've made one. Could be my fault, and that's fine. But as a band, like you should have been like, all right, moving on to the next one. Let's take this song next since we know that. And then later come to me and be like, dude, what's going on? And
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, I thought it was a 4 count. It's a 6. I'm not right with the track, and this it's a track song. So like it's just consideration. Like there's people watching. You
Yeah.
know, I watched a real band, went out and saw them live, like a pretty famous band. And the lead guy was tearing apart the lighting guy from stage. He stopped the song and was tearing apart his lighting guy because he wasn't doing it the way he wanted. I'm like, wow, that's so like
Yeah.
unprofessional. And like it was a roller coaster of emotions to this show because it happened more than once. And I was like, that poor lighting guy, like he's getting torn apart in a pretty big arena. Like,
Yeah. And everyone's watching.
and clearly it wasn't his lighting guy. It was probably
Yeah.
the place's lighting guy, so he didn't know. But anyways, yeah, totally get that. I think that covers some tips there. You know, it's really just about being a decent human being and considering, checking your ego. Yeah, like don't have one. You're a musician, you might be a good one, but like that doesn't make you any better than anyone else. And yeah, you might be able to pick apart someone else's playing because you're a better player, but just don't do that and just be helpful. Bring people up, not down. I don't know.
Yeah.
Seems to be the right thing to do.
There's a good saying that I heard. It says, "You're good, but you're not that good." So like
Yeah,
you're a good player, you're a good singer, you're a good audio engineer, good lighting engineer,
yeah,
but you're not I don't think you're ever good enough to justify being a complete like just a hole to somebody. Like
There's no excuse for it. I don't care how good you are. I don't care if you're in a headlining stadium touring band. Like
yeah,
there's amount of respect that you've got to give to everyone. Eh, and I don't care how good you are or think you are, and nobody else is gonna care how good you are or how good you think you are. Like
yeah.
if you're an asshole, people are just gonna know you as an asshole, not a great musician.
No, not everyone needs to be House MD. And if you don't know that reference, go watch it.
Good show. All right.
Yeah. All right,
So
let's do some rapid fire question or some rapid fire list of red flags, and we'll probably end up thinking of some more too.
possibly.
Uh, so this is the segment is called "You Might Be That Guy If." Uh, Number one, you think sound check is optional. It's not optional. I'm sorry.
Never.
It's not. It's it's not as a sound guy. It's not optional. There's no.
As a band member, I don't want it to be optional. Like I don't. I mean, there's situations where like things happen. Like here's a good example. Music festivals. A lot of times, bands don't get a sound check. They might get a
Yeah,
line check. They ain't getting a sound check. They're just
which
rotating
is good
bands on
enough.
and off. If you've got a sound guy out there, like he's gonna mix you from the
Yeah,
get go. That happens, and that's fine. I but that's only if it's not okay. If it's not an option, but if it
yeah,
is an option, it's not optional. Does
yes,
that make sense?
hundred
Like
percent.
if you don't skip that because just there's so many things in the cover band world that can go wrong if you don't like because especially if you don't have a sound guy,
Yeah,
somebody needs to go out there and listen to what the hell's going on before you go, tearing through everyone's soul with your loud music.
yeah. We used to just real fast. We used to have a an audio mixer, not the board. We used to have a sound engineer
There you go.
that would not do sound checks. Like we would be like, "Hey, are you ready for a sound check?" No, no, no. We're just gonna move on. They can start practicing, and I'll do it as we're going.
And that's their prerogative.
I mean,
But
I guess, but it's so much easier just to get a sound check done, get everything. And one thing we did one live event where it was outdoors at a rally at our state capitol, um, and I didn't have time for a sound check. So what I did was I said, "Hey, just play a song, and I'll sound check you guys off that song." Like play a song I'm familiar with. That way, when I'm sound checking it, I can know exactly what I'm mixing, exactly what I need to figure out, and we'll move from there. Like you can get around to making sure you do a sound check. That's not exactly a sound check. Anyways, this is supposed to be rapid fire, and I'm over here taking forever. Um, Next one is you bring new gear without telling anyone.
so I think this
Exactly what you're about to
depends.
head to tonight.
Yeah, right. So I have been known in one of my bands to like to try things out live for the first time. And this guy always gives me trouble for it. But here's the thing: it's not anything serious. So, for example, as a drummer, or if I were to play guitar or whatever, like if I'm bringing something, well, let's say as a drummer, if I'm bringing a new cymbal stand, not everyone needs to know that. Nobody cares.
No,
But
I mean unless it falls mid set.
yeah, I had one fall over once. It was pretty traumatic. But I, especially watching it go over, and you're like, damn it, there you go, and boom. That's like, all right. But anyways,
We'll include that clip at some point.
I think if like you're like if you bring a new microphone and you have someone in the band who does audio for you, like just give them that heads up because they know they might need to take a few more minutes to redial your settings in because your
Yeah.
profile's no longer like savable. Like because a lot of times we save them and just reload them
Yep.
in our mixer, but um, if you're gonna bring a new maybe you're switching from all the pedals on your pedal board to like a line 6 or something like that where it's an all processing a processing box, whatever you want to call it. There's a little bit more to consider for the sound guy, because your patches need to be at the same level, so they need to run through that on a sound check because no guitarist ever checks any of that. And I've seen what happens when that doesn't happen. So there's just like little things like that could be helpful. But I mean, just be, I actually had an instance where uh, I got there early. Whole band was using IEMs. So I got there early, set everything up for IEMs, and then here comes two band members walking in, dragging their floor monitors, which, to be fair, weren't even floor monitors; they were speakers. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't run XLRs to these. Like, I wasn't. I've been here twiddling my thumbs because I'm done, and now here we go, and you didn't tell me when we agreed that this is how we were going to do it a week ago. It's like,
Yep.
just, just. So, funny part about that though, they didn't bring real monitors, and I ran a little bit too much bass through them. By the end of the night, they had a bit of a flapping, popping
Yeah.
sound
I
coming through
bet.
them. They weren't
I
even real
bet.
monitors. Some speakers somebody pulled off a shelf somewhere and said, "Here, we're going to use these." I'm like, they're just probably a little bit bigger than the Dell speakers used to get with the computers. I'm like, oh, that's what you want to use, all right. But anyway,
Oh, that's good.
um, if you
Uh,
never
yeah.
help tear down anything ever,
That's yeah. Yeah, you're that guy. That's not Sean. Well, actually, maybe. No, I'm kidding. Uh, but
I,
you definitely be that guy if you do not help tear down anything.
yeah, like I said, I don't care what your job is, just help. And
Roll
if
a
you don't know
cable.
how to
Do
do it,
something.
ask, what can I do to help you? I'm done. Oh, thanks. Roll these cables up. It might be something that saves 5 minutes, but that's 5 minutes quicker getting out of a venue at 2 o'clock in the morning when everyone's tired and the bar wants
Yeah,
to close up and you're holding everyone up.
that's something I was gonna say earlier, but I completely slipped my mind and I couldn't think of it afterwards. Like if we everything we just talked about today, right? Like being on time and everything. Like you may think that these things are small, and may only save you like 5 minutes in the long run. You know how much audio I can get checked in 5 minutes. I can get three mics checked in 5 minutes, maybe even more, depending on how fast people sing. Like I can get
Right.
things checked really fast in 5 minutes. So if you don't think it saves more time, 5 minutes is better than nothing. That's all I'm gonna say.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like this
seems
one is
good.
directed towards me, but not, I don't think intentionally. You haven't smiled since 2019.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to get a lot of, why don't you smile when you play? Either through video or live. And, there's a whole lot of things that I could get into about that I'm not going to, but
This isn't a
um
therapy session.
well, it's one of those things where when you let, like, when you're really, like, when all the stuff we talked about higher up on this list is affecting you because you're not doing anything about it and you
Yeah,
start not being happy, um it shows. And then at that point you're just doing a job. Like, you're just doing it. You're just going through the motions. You're doing it because you have to, and because I signed up for this, I'm getting paid. I had to get myself out of a situation where a lot of these things were affecting me and I wasn't having any fun.
yeah,
And now I've really flipped. Like, you got to make a decision if the situation, the band, the gig you're doing, whatever it might be, if it's not for you anymore, you need to consider those things. And if it is going to be something you have a lot of problems with, and you got to make the decision whether or not you're going to stick it out and just do your part to do your part, or if you're going to move on to something that makes you happy or whatever. Like, that's up to you. That's everyone's individual choice. But I've now learned to live with what the situations I put myself in.
yeah,
And it's like, well, I might as well go have fun because maybe I don't like a lot of the way things are, but I'm at least playing my instrument, playing music in front of people.
yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on the situation you're in. One of the bands I'm in, we have too much fun. Our fun is measured by the buckets of beer. Um,
His good old acoustic band.
yeah, that's a really good band for having a lot of fun because we're all really good players, but we don't care about that. We care about the entertainment value, and
Yeah,
it shows. Like, our show is in between the songs. I think that's where all the fun is. So, anyways,
yeah.
yeah. So,
Well, there you
really
go.
reevaluate your situation if you're not happy, or if you are happy, appreciate what you have and make sure you're a good bandmate so that you can keep that going.
Yeah. So I spoke about this in the first episode, and we're about to wrap up here. But I spoke about this in the first episode. Um, we want to hear your stories. So if you have any stories, you can 100% contact us. Like either through our website, thinkmusicpodcast.com, or you can totally just like type it in the comments if you're on YouTube. If you're on Spotify, easier to just go to the website than to go find the YouTube channel. Just a thought. Um,
Uh,
but we want to know, okay, what are some of the best or the worst experiences you've had? Whether maybe you were the teammate that was bad, and maybe you suddenly realized it over time, or maybe you just had a bad teammate, and you want us to talk about it. Um, but
uh,
one thing I think we can ask, and I think we can also ask ourselves this, is what's one thing you can do better to support your team? And I can say for my point of view is I think be willing to step up a little bit more. In the case of like everything I spoke about today, like being on time, all this stuff, like as someone that takes that super seriously, you have to be willing to step up to those people and say, hey, you need to come early. Like this is really killing our time when you're not here early. Or you really need to learn your parts. Like I think for me, I need to be better at vocalizing what I need to be successful and to make this band successful, to make everyone successful. But yeah, I think that's what I can do better.
there's not a thing I could do that would improve my situation. I pretty much just shy of walking on water, if I'm honest with you. No, you know what? It, that's that's not something I can answer right now. I'd have to really think about that. I don't mean that in a pompous way, but I'd rather it be a meaningful one.
Yeah.
I do a lot, but so does everybody I work with do a lot. Like I don't every band I'm in now, everybody's such a hard worker, and I am too. But I guess to answer it, maybe I could look for more opportunities of improve. Like, because if you have a really good band that's firing on all cylinders and everything's good, like there's always another way to elevate it. You
Yeah.
got to find out what that way is. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it's readjusting our set list. Maybe it's how we banter between songs or whatever. Maybe what I will do is start looking for those situations, start writing them down, and then bringing them to the band to improve the band situation so we can be even better. Um, I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea. Yeah,
That's
I
good.
think that's because it's there's no way we're perfect. There's no way I'm perfect. One of the problems you're gonna find in a as a in a band, a lot of people are gonna come see you. A lot of your friends, a lot of your family, whatever it might be, whatever entourage you've acquired that you take to the different bars or whatever you play at. Very few of them are going to be honest.
Yeah. No, it
Um,
was great. It
because
sounded awesome.
right, and there's definitely words that I can tell you that should trigger your consideration of that. One being, oh, you're sounding a lot tighter now, or wow, every time I
Yeah.
hear you, you're getting a little bit better. Like, damn it, what are we doing wrong? But
Yeah.
a lot of those people won't give you the honest feedback because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So it's always good to look inward and have an honest like, God, we could do a lot better in this. We could do better at that. We really suck at this. We're really good at that, and like start working on some of those things to always make it a little bit better. Because the problem I've seen with a lot of cover bands is one. I know one in particular. They don't change their set list. Like they played the same songs. You can set your watch that set list. They're not doing anything different.
Yeah.
So the same people come out and see them, and that's cool. I'm glad for them. They're a really good band. But at some point, some of those people are going to be like, you know what? I was saw them last Friday. This Friday, I'm gonna go see this other band because I already know what that band's gonna play. Like,
Yeah.
take
Pretty
considerations like
much.
that, and say, you know what? Our shit's getting a little dry here. Let's throw some new stuff in there. Let's figure something out. I don't know. There's always different things you could do.
Yeah. This was really good.
All
I think you enjoyed this one.
right. Well, and I feel like I could keep going,
Oh
but in the
boy.
interest of my mental health and drumming up all of the situations that have
And
led
in
us
the
to this.
interest of having a 60-minute podcast episode, where last one was like what 40, I
Huh?
think. So yeah, if you
This is
enjoyed listening to like slightly weird people talk about their issues in bands and audio engineering, there you go.
I'm not slightly weird.
Sorry, very weird for Sean's case. Uh, all
Okay.
right. So just like last episode, we're gonna completely embarrass ourselves and make ourselves sound stupid by following whatever is on this sheet. I think this is just gonna be a ritual for us at this point at the end of our episodes. So I start it, and then Sean goes off, and then in unison. Look at that, talking about being a good bandmate, and we're doing it together.
Won't be in unison, I promise you.
All right, so all right, that's it for episode 2. Be a teammate everyone wants on stage.
Don't be that guy, seriously.
No inflection in his voice. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Thanks for listening to Think Music.
See you next time.
See you next time.
It's impossible to do. There's no way we can
miserable.
do this.
No, we gotta try this again. Hold on. They can see us next time after the next time. We gotta get this. All right. 3, 2, 1. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Think Music.
See you next time.
See you next time.
That's better. That'll work. Oh, good night.
We're really shit at this.
We're pretty bad at this.